Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, Monkey Wrench. I'm Kelly, the monkey with the wrench. Today we are going to make a very short video. Customer brought this in. Yep, it's nighttime. I'm an insomniac, I work at night. Might as well do something. It's a Troy bilt TB230. These are pretty standard Briggs motors. You see them on a lot of stuff these days. Whether it's Troy bilt or not, they're the same motor. But he bringed it to me and he said it starts, but it won't stay running. Now there's no primer on this one. This guy cuts grass for a living, so I know it hasn't been sitting for a while. Starts right up. It doesn't sound real good. It sounds like it's got a little tick to it, but that could be anything. At the moment, we're not worrying about that. Usually when that happens, it's a dirty carburetor. So we're going to pop that off. It's right there behind that air filter. We're going to pop that off, give it a quick clean. If you want to see this style carburetor be cleaned, I've done it dozens of times. There's at least 4 or 5 videos on this carburetor style. So I'm not going to film that again. Just going to clean the carburetor, reinstall it, and I'll be right back. These are my favorite style of carburetor to work on. Most people hate them because they are plastic and they have trouble getting them apart. So I recommend checking out one of my other videos and I'll show you how easy it is to get it apart once you understand it. Sorry about the train, but the reason that I like these is because you can pull the entire carburetor apart, see everything, and clean it and throw it back together without worrying too much about missing something. They're very basic carburetors. Now, most people do not take that top cover off, but I do, because I find it's a little bit easier to get to a few things. So, let me see. I think it's an 8mm and a 6mm. There's 2 on the outside. And then there's 2 that attach this housing to the carburetor. And it's not. That's it. Usually the shiny silver ones, self-tappers, go into the carburetor itself, and the other 2 go into the frame here and here. You set those aside. This comes off pretty easy. This just slides out. And I've got to get this fuel line off, and I got to take off the tank. I like to do that so I don't have to clamp off the line. I'm going to take out these 3 on the top to take off the coil, the recoil. This comes off. Don't lose your stuff. The tank just slides on, so that comes out of the way. I'm going to take my fuel line off, which means I need my pliés, which is a French word for dance of some sort, maybe ballet, but take off my fuel line. And now, even though my fuel tank is completely full, I don't have to worry about it leaking. And the carburetor comes out. When you take it off, these are just Z-bends. That one goes in the back. That one goes in the front. And here on your intake, a lot of times on the intake itself, you will find that white ring, and behind there is an O-ring. So if it's still stuck on the intake, pull it out, blow it off, put it back in the carburetor. Now I usually drain the fuel into something white so that I can check it for water. If there's water in the fuel, it'll sink to the bottom, and then it will try to suck it up into the carburetor, and then your machine can't run on water. The fuel looks clear. Like I said, this guy cuts grass for a living, part-time for himself. So he uses this machine a few hours every day. I'm not seeing any water in the fuel, and I don't see any dirt either. What little dirt was in there was probably already in this container. But I don't see any water pooled up. You'd see it pooled up at the bottom when I tilt this, and it would definitely be there. And I don't see any water. So I'm going to pull this thing apart and we'll see what we can find. So we're just going to take this apart. These usually seal pretty well, but if you can get up in there with your screwdriver, you can get it to come apart. Now I see a little bit of dirt in there floating around. There's no water. Doesn't look too bad. So my guess is that something just got caught up in one of these jets. This thing just comes apart. I use the leverage on my thumb, not the leverage here, because you could break things. So I keep my thumb up, and even though it hurts a little bit, I know I'm not going to break nothing. So that comes out. Only goes back together one way. Don't force it, it's just plastic. I know I'm working on a dirty bench, but I'm cleaning this thing. These three holes right here, this is your main jet, and that's usually what's clogged. And I'm holding this up to the light right now to see if I can see through those holes. And I can see through the lower two, but not really the top one. And something that simple can cause this problem. Now I hear crap about this all the time. If you got a negative comment, I don't really care. Let me know. This is where your fuel goes in. This is your float, and there's a needle and seat right up there. So when that carburetor bowl fills up, it pushes the float up just like in your toilet, cuts off your fuel. I always check this the same way. I blow through here, and then I push this up and down to see if it cuts off the air I'm blowing through. And if it does, then I know that it's clean, it's not clogged, and the needle and seat are good, so I don't even have to take that out. Sounds good, working fine. All I'm gonna do is clean that real quick. Let me grab those. Now I hear it in the comments already. You always say you're not gonna film that, and then you always film it and you talk for 20 minutes about it. I'm just taking my wire cleaners. This is just a welding wire tip cleaner set you can get. They're like $5 at the store. And I'm just going through these three jets. Now this is plastic, and they do wear out. So sometimes you just have to replace the carburetor. But these carburetors have gone up to like $60 even for cheap ones on Amazon. They're expensive now. Thanks, pandemic. So try and save them as best you can. And they always say, you say you're not going to film it, and then you end up filming it. It's because I realized after a few comments that there are new people that have never found my channel before. Most of my videos get 1,000, 2,000 views. One of them from a few months ago is now getting 2,000 views a day. And I got over 20,000 views, 22,000 views on that particular video. So you never know which video is going to make it big. So I tend to try to show people in each video how easy this stuff is to work on with minimal tools. So that's why I always forget, and I always say I'm not going to show it, and then I show it. But anyway, now that that's all cleaned out, this only goes back one way. You'll see on the short side that's elongated, same as the top of that. Slide that back on, give it a wiggle with steady pressure, but don't force it, or you'll break that off, and you'll be spending 50 bucks on a new carburetor. Into this body, it only goes one way. If you put it in one way, it falls all the way down. If you put it in the wrong way, it stops high. So just turn it back around. I'm going to spray that out a little bit without getting it on the camera, just to make sure. Trying to do it with no light. I got 2 overhead lights right there, and I still can't see jack. So we're just going to stick that back in, push it down till it clips. We're going to put this back on. Now this is always tight, always. So I try to line it up first. Pretty much put it where it goes. Get out of here. Freaking beetles. I'm in Florida at 11:30 at night, and there's all kinds of bugs around. So try and fit that in the best you can before you put your screws back in. Don't force it, it's all plastic. And if you force something and crack it, again, you're buying a new carburetor, unless you got others laying around that you can take parts from. Quick close. Don't use your gun to put it back together like I do. I do this 10 times a day, and my gun is set on very weak. So now I'm just going to throw it back on. You've already seen the way I took it off. It's just going to go back on. Everything here is just reversed. Put your linkages back on. Before you put the carburetor in place, put the linkages back on. Then the carburetor slides onto the intake. Then put your fuel tank back on. I've got a Barry Manilow song from the 70s stuck in my head. How messed up is that? I've been binge watching, actually, Starsky and Hutch on YouTube. I've never seen the show when I was a kid, and for some reason I felt like watching it, and now I'm like episode 10 in season 2. So now I got all these songs from my childhood stuck in my head, so that's always fun. Alright, fuel line's back on. The fuel tank just has 2 clips on the back that go right here, and you just pull it up until they clear, put it back on, slide it down. All we're doing now is reversing the process. Oftentimes when you get back on, it doesn't go down. Just grab it with one hand, pull the rope with the other, and it'll find its way down. Now we're going to put our 3 bolts back in. Just like so. Sorry if my knee's in the way. It's not my intention. I do these things in a certain order. Because I take them apart on the regular and put them back together on the regular. Why did that not go down right? There we go. I tend to have a certain order to what I do. Now, gotta put this goes back into here. This is your rebreather. this and this go into these holes on this part of the frame. So when you get everything lined up, that'll just sit where you want it to sit. Put your screws back in. No, I'm a Lawnnower fan, which is why I hate having this song stuck in my head. I like 70s music. But I'm not a Barry Manilow fan. Alright. Now, put these last two in. The silver screws have a different size head. It's 8mm. For the large ones that go on the outside that hold this to the bracket. And this just sandwiches the carburetor in place. And then the two smaller ones are 6mm that actually go into the carburetor. And now all we have to do is put this on. I'm going to put that on, the air filter back in place, and we're going to start it up. Alright, now it's all back together. Now, aside from pausing to grab tools, you watch this in real time. I don't know how long it's been, 12, 13 minutes. But it's all back together. Can't let it run too long. It is 11:30 at night. But that is another one for the books. Another customer happy. Or he will be tomorrow when he comes to pick up that machine. The fuel looked fine. I didn't get much dirt out of the carburetor, but that top inlet, that top jet hole, was just a little bit clogged over. So running through it with my handy dandy wire set that I got from Harbor Freight for $5, Lowe's sells at Home Depot, and cleaning up the carburetor real quick takes care of the problem. If you are cutting your own grass and you have that kind of problem, some minimal tools and you're back in business. If you are cutting grass for a living, I was cutting a lawn a couple days ago. I cut a few lawns myself, had the same problem, pulled my carburetor off in the driveway of the customer, cleaned the carburetor, threw it back together, finished the lawn. It happens. So there you go. Thanks for stopping by. Smash the like button on your way out. Make sure you're subscribed. Thanks for stopping by. See you soon.